reinvent the wheel. I tend to forget to do that sometimes. And we make these recordings available after the meeting for those who couldn't attend also.
Okay.
So we have I think the committee itself, or those who had an interest in the committee from the league, is about 20 people, but they don't always attend the meetings, but they're available to assist where as necessary. So we have an agenda. And the first says welcome and introductions. So we do have we'll go through that. I'm Gwendolyn Sappho. I've been with the league since 2019. I serve as the vice president and the chair of this committee. I did when I went to the summit. I didn't intend to be serving as the chair, but that's what happened, and it's all good. So we've been doing that's what I've been doing, and we've been meeting since December. So I'll go back over to Connie from the way I can see it.
My name is Connie Nicklin. I am the communications chair for the League of Women Voters of Alachua County, and I've been attending these meetings kind of to keep pulse on what's going on and the committees and how we can help the other efforts.
Okay, Mickey.
Hey, I am brand new almost to the league. And I'm helping Connie with communications efforts as much as I can. And I was a longtime journalist before moving to UF Health. I work in communications there now, but before that was a reporter for a lot of years and often found myself covering crime-related topics and, violence and courts, police type things. And I'm just kind of drawn to the topic, and I think it's a big one. So I found myself interested in it here again too.
Thank you. And Connie, if I can lean on you to take those notes that you do so well, if you don't mind, which is what we have. We have notes from the last meeting, and it's very extensive. It kind of covered everything that we spoke on, and that's helpful as well. Thank you, Connie. Yvette Carter.
Hi, Yvette Carter. I have been a past member of the league, but wasn't very engaged. And I am now back and trying to be more engaged.
Thank you for being back and engaged. And Brandy Stone.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm sorry I'm in transit, but I promise you my car is parked and off. I'm not driving and zooming. My name is Brandy Stone. I'm the Community Health Director with Gainesville Fire Rescue at the City of Gainesville. I work under Fire Chief Joe Dixon, who has also been named a special advisor to the city manager for issues around health and public safety that includes gun violence. So I have been working in the space for the last couple months from the city perspective, and I'm really excited to have brought Brittany onto our team last week, and grateful that she included me on this invite just so I could introduce myself. And thank you for the work that you all are doing in the community to increase, safety and the advocacy that you do on those issues.
Thank you.
Gwendolyn,
Okay.
may I add one more thing about Brandy Stone that she didn't say?
Mm-hmm.
Two more things. One, she was integral in the city's inaugural gun violence summit. And then two, she works on the One Nation, One Project. She's one of the lead folks on One Nation, One Project, which is a program that really deals with alleviating or addressing gun violence amongst our young folks. So I wanted to add those two things.
Okay.
Thank you,
All
Yvette.
Okay. Well, so and Brittany, I'll give you opportunity when we ask you to speak to us a little bit. So as I said, we have notes from the last meeting, and again, our general mission is to do what we can to be effective in the community. Our league, at a national level and at a state level, advocates gun violence prevention and safety, and we work under that. We are, again, not trying to reinvent the wheel, but trying to make sure that we are active in the community as it relates to gun violence prevention. It is very necessary for all stakeholders to be a part of what's going on and be a part of the of helping to hope to be to give some solutions or some alternatives to these things. One of the things we did after attending the gun violence summit, we decided that we would again work with the county and the city, and that we also give out gun locks. So at every of our all of our events, we give gun locks, and we pass our gun locks to those, and we're able to get those from a couple of sources. So we are also involved with the with Moms Demand Action, and other other resources in the community as well. We've had Commissioner Desmond Duncan Walker to speak to us and to talk about those this issue and the things that are important, because she was one of the first ones that actually brought it, I believe, to the attention of the city to really focus on these issues. So we just want to be involved, and we want to do what we can to assist what is going on. So we're listening and we're learning. We're learning what other organizations, other agencies are doing, and we're seeing where we fit in. We've also spoken with other other leagues in Florida and looked at their program. So we want to be ready to have a robust program when we really get involved. But again, we want to be where we need to be rather than a group over here doing something, a group here doing something. When I realize collaboration is my favorite word. So I believe that when you collaborate, you get a lot more done than when you do things in a silo. So that's why we're here. So our speaker for tonight is Miss Brittany Coleman, and she is very new to the position.
Yes.
And I think I ended up talking to her on the second day, her second day at work. And right before that, I found out that I actually knew her. And that was through Yvette Carter. She said, "You know Brittany." I was like, "I do." And then I like, "Oh yeah, Brittany." Brittany spoke to we're in another group, the National Forum for Black Public Administrators, and Brittany spoke to us during that time also. So welcome, Brittany, to the city of Gainesville's disposition. And what we would like to do is just for you to spend some time telling us about you and about what your goals are in this position, what the mission is, what what are the plans, and how do you see us fitting in to those?
Mm, these are all great questions. First, I want to say y'all have picked a great chair. She's right. She caught me on my second day. I'm like, wait, let me look at my calendar. She was like, hold on now, we're your stakeholders. We need to be up front. So I said, yes, let me get y'all on the calendar for sure. So I'm really happy to be able to do this. I think it's really important. And I'll also say that there's been such a great response from the community that I don't know if I was prepared for. Like, people were waiting for this position to be filled so that they can claim their seat at the table and say, we want to be a part of the solution. And I think that says a lot about Gainesville. It says a lot about how much we care about the kids here and just the safety of our communities in general. So I do appreciate you all for that. And I'm glad that Brandy could hop on too, because she's going to be able to help fill in some gaps for sure, because this is day 7. But just to give you a little bit of background about myself, I have been in Gainesville since 2013. Born and raised in Florida, just up the road here in Columbia County. So been familiar with Gainesville my whole life, been back and forth, but officially made it my home in 2013. So I've been here for a while and know Gainesville very well, know a lot of the folks here. So this just felt like a really good fit. I spent, most of my career in victim services with the county. So I was responding to victims of different crimes, helping them through their healing journey, helping them through criminal justice processes, whatever it is that they felt they needed. Our agency kind of helped help them navigate the system. A part of that was working really closely with law enforcement. So I had an office at the Gainesville Police Department for a while, and I supervised a lot of those victim advocates and, just made sure that we led with an understanding of trauma, how to take care of folks, how to be, to your point, collaborative, right? Like I am not the expert in what somebody needs to do to heal, but I can help kind of be a conduit to whatever they feel like might be helpful. So that's how we wanted to approach it. I went away last year for about a year. I didn't move, but I worked remotely and did some traveling, consulting work, and I felt like I needed to be back working local. So this position became available and I got sucked in, and I'm really grateful for it. So it's definitely been a whirlwind week and almost week and a half. And so to your question, like, what is this position? What are some of our goals? I think one of the things that we really want to stress with this position is that it has a public health focus. It's under, like Director Stone was mentioning, under the community health and Gainesville Fire Rescue, which I think has a little different flavor than if it were under like a police department, for example. So we really want to emphasize the public health approach, where we're looking at risk factors, we're looking at protective factors. We probably hear and say social determinants of health like 100 times a day because we want to really hit that home. And that's, those are the things that impact, someone's well-being. Yeah, I see Brandy in the chat. Because another part of public health is like normalizing it, right? Just being able to educate folks, saying some of the terminology until it becomes normal. And I think most people became aware of the public health approach, and we talked about this the other day. Brandy and I was COVID, right? We saw public health with looking at risk factors, like what makes someone a little bit more susceptible to getting COVID, what protective factors are there, right? So instead of like just focusing on these folks that have COVID, there was an effort to, what if we stop people from getting COVID in the first place? So you saw vaccines, you saw social distancing, mask wearing, teaching people how to wash their hands, right? Like all of these preventative things that could be done on an individual level, a community level. And we really want to take that approach to gun violence. What are some of the things that we can do on an individual level, but also on a community level to increase folks' safety? And that's going to look like a lot of different things. We don't have, a plan per se right now, but one of the things that we're working on is building coalition, building folks building a coalition of folks here locally, which, let me say, a lot of that already exists. There's a lot of people already doing gun violence prevention work, or just work with the communities that are at most risk in general. They might not be calling it gun violence intervention, but they're doing programming with youth, they're doing arts and culture, and we know that those are, protective factors for gun violence. So like you said, it's getting a pulse of who's already here, who's already doing what, not just, city and county and businesses, but like your nonprofits, your local activists who are just doing this because they love their communities. Just getting a list of who these folks are so we can eventually bring, an actual table together and start to plan some things. So I can say one of the things that I think is important is introducing me in the role, and just so that folks can put a face with a name and they can know that somebody's in this position. So we've talked a lot about, we want this position to be accessible, to feel and be accessible to people. I'm not, someone tucked away in an office that, people can't call, come see, meet, interact with. And so one of the things that I think is going to be important is, getting out in the community, introducing myself, also asking communities what their needs are around gun violence. And I know, speaking of the summit, that I was able to attend the first day, but I missed the second day. And I think that's when like a lot of the recommendations and things came out. And y'all might be able to help me on that. But I know there were some, I don't know, were they focus groups or some work groups or something that happened that second day, where folks were able to kind of get into their groups and talk about a path forward, which I think would be really helpful to look at. But also just hearing directly from communities, what are some of the things you're dealing with as it relates to gun violence? And it's sometimes really difficult to get people in spaces when you're, talking about anything really. But, people have lives to live. They've got, work, kids, other responsibilities. And so, thinking creatively about how to do that is definitely something I am open to, whether it's, needing help to spread the word once we get things situated and scheduled. Like, we need people to come. I want to hear directly from community. So figuring out the spaces to do that, where it's one, comfortable for people, places, where folks live, so that transportation isn't a barrier. Thinking about time too. If we want to have these meetings maybe later in the day, we might have to think of, things like maybe we want to feed people, maybe we want folks to leave with a little bit of something. So these are like logistics that haven't been decided, but things that we're thinking through. And so I think the first step for me is just getting out, letting people know who I am, but also, since you asked, calling on you to say, I'm speaking very generally, but you to like, hey, we need people to come. We need, bodies here, because she's willing to listen. And you all are trusted messengers. So I need, I know quite a bit of people, but I don't know everyone. And so that's where I'm definitely going to need some help, I think, in the coming weeks and months as we try to roll this out. Yeah, and also just calling on folks just logistically to make this a comfortable experience. That's some of the things that we've been thinking of these last couple of days. I'll pause because I know I said a lot, but I'm thinking about just getting out there and meeting people.
Thank you, Brittany. And I know you just got here, and here we are saying, what are you gonna do? You're not that you're here, but we understand that the plan may not be complete at this time. So again, we are here to assist and to see what it is that we can do, because we're new to this as well. And we also, if you have if you're having different activities or programs, we help you get the word out too. We Connie is real good about that. So we will help make sure that it's that the word gets out, and that we can be available to assist as well. There was when Commissioner Duncan Walker spoke to us, she mentioned a task force. Have you all talked about that yet, or is that still in the works?
So yeah, so yes to both. We've definitely talked about like how do we bring folks together so that we can start talking about this. A lot of that is still in the works. Through different partnerships that we're forming, and I see Brandy, her camera turned on, but different partnerships that are forming and MOUs that are kind of being tossed around and figure out who, how to get those off the ground. So I feel like once we're able to solidify some of the bigger partnerships, we can start to hone in on like how to build this this group of folks that are going to come together and really help us start to plan how to tackle this issue. And did you want to add to that, Brandy?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So like Brittany had mentioned, so right now what we're working on is, and I apologize, my cat sounds like a small child. And I just walked in my house, so she is happy I'm home. But we are working on formalizing an MOU between the city, the county, and Santa Fe College to be kind of like a core group of folks that are working together from an institutional level to pull some of this together. And so actually Monday at 3, I believe, is a joint city county commission meeting where the topic of gun violence prevention programming will be brought up. And this MOU and this partnership is likely to be a topic of that conversation. So if you all are interested, I would highly recommend tuning into that and kind of seeing how that conversation goes between the joint city and county commissions. But we are working on formalizing that. We're kind of loosely calling it an alliance between Santa Fe, the county, and the city, and what that exactly looks like in terms of formal partnership. And then the goal is after we have that, kind of institutional group established, that we start to onboard, like Brittany said, the community organizations that are doing the work and kind of figuring out how all of us fit into this larger puzzle that is intervention and prevention efforts. So more to come there, definitely in the very near future in terms of what this partnership looks like. And we're excited that we've gotten these institutions on board, and 3 very large institutions in our community at that. So very much looking forward to that. It's been a great experience working with both of them so far, and to be able to formalize this and start to pull all of this together is very much so on the near horizon, which is great.
Okay. Thank you, Brandy. What I failed to mention, or what Yvette failed to mention, is that not only was Brandy very instrumental in that summit, but so was she. She was a major player in that as well. So we're glad to have her as a
She sure
resource with the league. Yes.
you pulled us all
Yeah.
together. That's for sure.
Yes, absolutely. So it's good to know that you're moving forward, and I know that this is all new. So things are coming together like that. But again, I say, as you're coming together, remember the league came to you, so we do have an interest in being involved and assisting where we can. We want to be at we plan to be at the table as well. So it's good to know about meetings, and as meetings do come along, come on, it would be great somehow to be on a mailing list. I mean, I think I am on the city's mailing list since I retired from there, so I do get some information, but maybe some of this, direct information that we could be kind of connected to, and work. Yeah, yeah. It's not like we don't have anything to do and that we're just looking for more to do, but we're just the kind of people that just really want to be involved in things that we know are important and necessary in the community. And that's what we're going to do. So keep that in mind for us as far as task force or just anything, being at the table, whatever we can do. And we certainly will push the programming that you have, that whatever you have going on. in things that we might be able to help with. We had a few committee members that let me know that they couldn't be here this evening, so I know they'll be listening to the recordings. But is there anyone from the league that has any questions or any comments to Brittany and Brandy? Brittany and Brandy, B and B.
I know that people are going to get confused because they're just very similar, but that's okay. It's an honor to be confused with Brittany, so I'm okay with it.
Same.
Okay. You bet.
Thank you. As you all are formulating the plan, I know, I do know. I could say I know. I know that the leadership at the city has been thinking about gun violence and how to address gun violence for quite some time, and specifically targeted since City Manager Curry came on board. And I know that it has been listed as, or has been proclaimed in Gainesville as a as a public health crisis, and so which is perfect for the two of you heading up this team or this effort. I think my question is, what role will mental health play in as you are planning how you will address gun violence? I know we focus a lot in Gainesville on youth because that's where we are seeing overt rises or drastic rises in instances of gun violence or usage of guns. But what are your thoughts? I know you don't have a plan, but what are your thoughts about ensuring that the mental health piece is addressed? And Brittany is going to laugh when I say this. The trauma piece is being addressed. So as a little aside, people usually meet me because I'm going off in a meeting about something. Like I'm like, hell no, we won't go. Like I'm usually like the antagonist in meetings. And so there was a meeting about a topic and I talked about trauma. So particularly trauma for people of color and very specifically Black folk. So I guess my question is compound, but it is, what are you going to be doing in the trauma space to address trauma that folks may have that may lead to gun violence, and in the mental health piece? What are your thoughts around it? Because I know you don't have an outline plan yet.
That's such a great question. And yes, that is exactly how I met Yvette. Several years ago now. But yeah, trauma, historical trauma, like community-based trauma is definitely what I've, spent a career working in. And so that's center, I think, to the work. So I'll say a couple things. The first is that, my my ideas for when we're able to kind of convene this group of providers and stakeholders and people from the community, I want that to be centered in understanding how trauma affects everybody. And so us doing this work, I also want to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves, that we're checking in, that there's good structure around this this coalition of people being really trauma informed, so that we are holding ourselves accountable. And then I'll pass it over to Brandy for this, but I know that with One Nation, One Project, that's been a huge focus, right? So a part of being able to get funding through that program, folks have had to account for that. And so I'll this is definitely Brandy's baby, so I'll let her take that. But it is, it is central to the work.
Yeah, so as both Yvette kind of mentioned at the beginning, and as Brittany just mentioned, I serve as the co-lead alongside Cherie Kelly, who's the Youth Services Manager with Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs. And so One Nation, One Project as a whole, when we look nationally, is about using arts and culture to address a community health issue. And so Gainesville is one of 18 other cities that are participating nationally. And our topic that we decided to focus on per the City Commission's direction was youth well-being and youth mental health. So all of the programs that we have funded and the projects that we have funded through ONUP, One Nation, One Project, have had to have a mental health component to them so that they are addressing arts and culture and they're finding creative modalities to explore with the youth, but that there's always support there mental health wise or education mental health wise to address many of the things that you all have mentioned around the trauma piece. But also, as I think Yvette kind of alluded to as well, is that we are hoping to, and Brittany I think mentioned this too, is well, we'll have those trauma-informed services and that trauma-informed perspective that will not just be at the individual level, that will be at the family level, that will be at the community level, right? So it's not just like the one-on-one type of work that we're hoping to do. We're aiming for it to be, you know, based at the family structure and at our larger community and have that trauma-informed approach woven through that. We know mental health is both positive mental health is a protective factor, but also negative mental health and past trauma is a risk factor. And so we, you know that those things are really important for us to be addressing throughout all of this work.
And I'll also say too, I am a fan of thinking outside the box. So I'm always like open to suggestions as well. And one of the things that I'm really interested in is, like Brandy mentioned, collective healing, but also through a cultural lens, right? So if you all are like, hey, here is a practice that we would love to see in Gainesville, or that something that has, you know, shown promise, have you heard of this? You know, I am open to that kind of feedback. Absolutely. Because I think, you know, it's going to take being creative and being innovative. But also when you start talking about trauma and mental health, I want to do it in a way that folks can receive it, feel comfortable about it. And that speaks to, you know, a cultural understanding that they might be coming from. So I'm definitely open to, I don't even want to say alternative healing methods, but, you know, something that may not be mainstream, you know, that folks do to heal collectively. And yeah, if you all run in across anything that you think might be promising, definitely send it to me. Even if you think I might have already heard of it.
Thank you. Thank you, Brittany and Brandy. Does anyone else have any questions? Any further questions? Well,
I see a
yes,
bit.
yes, yes, got it.
I'm sorry, I'm not the antagonist tonight. I do just have really questions. I do have questions. My second question, or my last question, is really around advocacy and what you might see community organizations like the League who have strong infrastructure around advocacy in political spaces. How can, or what do you see? I know it's new, but your initial thoughts around policy that the League could support or advocate on the behalf of this work that would help you all do more in working to alleviate gun violence in Alachua County and beyond.
I love that question. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I'll fill in.
Yeah, I'll kind of speak to this around the way, but I think it's definitely important. I know that, you know, my role specifically is not going to be a legislative advocacy, but some of the folks that are going to be working with us are going to be in that space. And so, you know, I think I think you mentioned earlier about some of the work you all do around safety and like the gun safety locks and things like that. And so, I know all of those types of initiatives take funding and support. And so I definitely encourage, advocacy around continued funding for these types of efforts.
And I would exclamation point that if I could. And I say that because one, Brittany's position is temporary, time. And so that's obviously a consideration that we have. It's funded through ARPA dollars. And so in addition to that, the city commission a couple weeks ago voted to allocate $150,000 of ARPA dollars to programming, in addition to, funding this position and, through the ARPA period. So while we do have funding, we are, of course, like very much so focused on grants and other ways that we can bring in additional funding to support the plan that this alliance puts together. So I would, like I said, I would exclamation point what Brittany says, that when we have this framework and this plan and we can identify some very specific things that we want to move forward with, being able to, very specifically advocate for some of the priorities that our community has put forward in terms of, any funding components, I think would be definitely important.
Thank you. I may be the only one who doesn't know this, but can you tell me what ARPA means? ARPA?
Yes, it is American Rescue Plan Act. So that is the federal funding that the Biden administration put out as a response to COVID-19. So municipalities and counties across the country were given funding based on their size.
Gotcha.
Used to alleviate some of the challenges that cities faced as a result of COVID. So in the very heavy, amidst of COVID, a lot of it was dedicated towards testing and personal protective equipment and things like that, alleviating some of the financial, the revenue lost by many city entities because of the impact of COVID on businesses and things like that. But also some of the funding has been used for more programmatic pieces. And so One Nation, One Project that I mentioned earlier is funded using ARPA dollars because the initiative came about because the national cohort basically realized that cities across the country have struggled with sense of connection, social belonging because of COVID, because it separated us physically, right? And so that's the city dedicated 2% of all the ARPA dollars that we got to One Nation, One Project. There have been some housing related initiatives that have come out of the city. There have been some aid to nonprofit organizations efforts that have come out of the city. And then, now gun violence has been a priority as well. So there's been a lot of different uses that the city commission has decided to allocate that funding towards, but all of the funding per the federal government has to be used up by December 31st of 2026.
Okay.
All of that funding will be spent by then. And so it is time limited. And so, we're very action oriented when it comes to the funding because it does have to be expended by then. And so we have this, we're really grateful that the city commission has prioritized, gun violence intervention and prevention in this way by having a position and dedicating some of the ARPA funding to this. But we know that we're going to need more, right? And that gun violence efforts won't stop in December of 2026. So, we're just looking. Brittany and I have already started. It's day 7, finding grants and things that we think are applicable. And working together to figure out what we're going to use those for. But that's a big piece moving forward, is figuring out how we continue this on.
Yeah, 100%. And I'll add to that by saying, the promising piece of information is that the Biden administration has dedicated an entire office to gun violence prevention, which means that there's also specific funding for states and municipalities that want to do gun violence work. And so I think another thing that we're really going to want to do is collect data, because they want to see data from cities doing really good work, or work period, right? So they can continue to justify some of those funding amounts. And I think that's another part of this project too, is collecting data from folks that are doing work. And so as we bring this team together, hearing from you all, like, here's our outreach efforts, here are how many, cases we were able to give out, here's the education piece, so we can, put together a really good packet of information.
Okay. Well, thank you all. Thank you both. And we talked about as you bring the city, the county, and Santa Fe together. We talked about how we bring in various organizations into play, and I think it's also important to um, really get involved get grassroots, get those people that are really affected by this to be at the table as well. um, we need to hear from them in order to know what to do. We can make lots of plans and such, but we also need to make sure that we know what the community, what those that are I mean, we're all impacted by it, but that are truly impacted by this, and they can tell us what kinds of things that, or tell you all what kind of things that are necessary, or that they believe are needed as well. So talking to those, I think Brittany, your first day you ended up at a vigil, um, on your first day in the office.
Yeah.
So I just think it's important to make sure that all those players are at the table in some form or fashion.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. We agree wholeheartedly, which kind of, takes me back to my first thought on this listening introduction tour. Like, that's the main really heart behind that, is to hear from the community first before we say, hey, here's what we put together. And I'm hoping that as we structure these, we can really get input from as many people as possible. I think that's really what the focus will be.
Yeah.
To your point, I want to hear from as many people as possible.
Yeah, I remember a while back. Like I said, I worked for the city, and I remember it was a long time ago. There was something happening in a particular community, and the city decided that they were going to go into that community and tell those people what they needed to do for them. Well,
Mm.
that wasn't well received, because they didn't bother to ask them what they needed. So those are the kinds of things that I think are, and they didn't mind letting them know, you come now because this has happened, but where will you be tomorrow, or where were you when we had those issues, those things before these things came up? So it is very important to listen to I'll just say, the people, the real the individuals out there that maybe are not a part of a organized organization, but are out there in the community as well. So as a part of your getting to know people. And again, we're here to help. We want to, if there aren't any other questions of Brittany or Brandy, we want to thank you all for joining us
Oh,
tonight. Yes, Miss Yvette.
I did lie. I'm sorry, but this really is the last thing because y'all are getting ready to go. And I do have both of your numbers, so I could just ask y'all this offline. But for the good of the body, I wanted to, I think, make a statement more so than ask a question. And it's around, Brittany's going to laugh because we've had this conversation. It's around what we say, or what we mean when we say addressing gun violence and the folks that it affects. Um, Yvette's personal opinion is that gun violence affects everyone, every community, every aspect of youth. I think in Gainesville, because of the rise in, um, you know, shootings. I don't want to use the word gangs because I don't. This to me, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. But neighborhood fights that turn, that kind of thing. But suicide is still an issue. Domestic violence for adults is still an issue. There is not one face to gun violence, and my hope is in this role of Brittany and under the leadership of Director Stone, that you all really take a holistic view and approach to addressing gun violence in our community. And while it is very important and it deserves focused attention, that what we see on the news is not the only aspect of gun violence that you all are looking to come up with a plan to address.
Holistic.
Thank you for naming that, Yvette.
Perfectly said.
Thank you. Thank you. And we will continue to be in touch with you all. And we thank you again for coming and joining us tonight, and giving us your overview. And I know as you go on and you get more into this, there'll be more information that you want to share. So again, thank you for taking the time after working all day to come and spend a little bit of time with us. So we really appreciate it. Thank you all very much.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you all.
And I now have both of yours numbers.
Miss Casso
So
called me
between me and your bet.
Yeah. There's
All
no
right.
escaping.
There's no escaping. All right. Thank you all so much for joining us. We appreciate it. So have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. We always allow what we do with listen and learn. We allow that to happen, and then if there are any other things that we need to handle with the committee, then we go to that. So and we do try to finish by 7:30. So we try to stay within that hour. So that means we got 10 minutes to get through the rest of this agenda. So what happened since the last meeting? Well, nothing big. I mean, well, some things, I guess it is big. There's a panel discussion on secure gun violence that's coming up. And I've been asked to serve on that panel. I believe it's April 20th. I don't have it in front of me. Well, it's on a Sunday. So it must be April 20th. I don't know. It's the day, I believe it's the day after.
21st.
It's the 21st. It's the day after the
The
Royal
20th is
Affair.
on the 20th is on a Saturday.
Okay, so it's the 21st at 1:00, and they believe it's going to be at Santa Fe. This is with Moms Demand Action, and the legislative lead for that is Rebecca Darnell, and she asked me to serve on that panel, and it's on secure gun storage and other issues, I suppose. So the more I learn about it, of course, I make sure that that the league has that information. Connie informed me, and I do get the voter from the state, but I mean, I really don't know how Connie goes through all these things and sees all this information, but she is always aware of everything that's going on. So that's good. That's really good. And so she made me aware that there are gun violence prevention state meetings that happen on Zoom, I believe. So I'm going to try to start attending some of those and seeing what is being said there, and invite any of you to do that as well. So those are the state league meetings that are taking place, and try to be there. One thing that I didn't have on the agenda is that last night there was a play, if you will, a performance called Who's in the Box. And Yvette attended. It was yeah, it was a second. That there was a part one, and this was part two. So Yvette attended that last night. Bet you want to tell us anything about that effort?
Sure. Who's in the Box 2 was, as Gwendolyn said, a sequel. Is that the number 2 in a movie series? The sequel to a play that happened last year. Several community entities came together to make sure this happened. One was the Sheriff's Department, State Attorney's Office, the City of Gainesville, through One Nation, One Project, the Alachua County Christian Pastors Association, and I know I'm missing several. The public defender, just all the folks who have official roles in some kind of way, either adjudicating or dealing with folks who commit gun violence, all pooled money together to put on this play. And it is a play basically about who's in the box. The box is a casket. And the play is this young person, this altercation that happens. I'm trying not to tell because you guys can go on YouTube and watch it. But a person got killed in the first one. And then the second one, it's how it affects the families. So it shows how the effect trickles out. Both of the guy who committed the murder and the victim had siblings, brothers both had brothers and sisters who acted out, and how their mothers were engaged and involved, and then how it affected the one who went to prison. So it was a very poignant play. The first one was, and so was the second. Then they had a discussion with the youth after. Sold out crowd in that small room of Phillips Center for Performing Arts. I don't know what the title of it is, but y'all know that side stage room probably holds a couple hundred. Sold out crowd, sold out. It was free, but standing room only. People had to go into an overflow room. Just really poignant for the youth that were there.
Okay, that's good, and it's good to know that it's on YouTube because I would want to go and watch that. So thank you for. I know you attended under many hats, so thank you for one of those hats being the league. So those are good things, and that just made me when I worked for the city. We did a series of movies where we would actually show a movie at the Hippodrome, and then we would have a discussion about it. And this was based on race and race relations. So that might be something worth thinking about too as we move along. It just kind of came to mind, and lots of people came. We served popcorn and hot dogs and hamburger, that kind of thing. We made it a great movie experience. Made it a movie experience, but we had good discussion with those in the community, and then we signed them up for study circles, which came together for 6 weeks to talk about race and race relations, and we made them very diverse. So those kinds of things worked as well. So saying that watching this movie and then having a discussion, those are things that bring about a lot of awareness, and awareness is one of the most important pieces to this. Anything else on updates or um, well, anything else regarding those three things? I talked about the panel discussion, the gun violence state meetings, and the play. Who's in the box? Anything else? Yes, Connie.
I just wanted to say as as a league member, you should be receiving the Florida voter. It's separate from the League of Women Voters of Alachua County voter. There's one that comes from the League of Women Voters of Florida. And when you get that email, all the different meetings at the state level are almost at the bottom. So if that's all you're looking for, just scroll down and just be aware that the meeting, by the time I told Gwendolyn about it, and I think I received that email that day, but it might have been the day before, the meeting was happening right then. So it's not a lot of notice, but I bet they're the same time every month. So that's where you can find that information.
Yeah. like I say, you do really good at keeping us informed, and I really appreciate that. Um, okay. So the next on the agenda, I I happen to hear someone say, um, talking about another committee about budget, and that budget request. It's so much information. Sometimes like I said, I miss things, but I'm that budget request from the league are due by the end of the month, by I guess the 30th.
Or
I
the
don't know
31st.
the 31st. I don't know what we need. I have no idea, but I'm thinking that we should make some type of request to have something in the budget. One of the things that the League of Broward County was doing is they have they have, what do you call it, bumper stickers, they have pins, they have
Mhm.
different things that they use to make sure, but they have, after they created their program. I mean, they have a robust program going on already. The gun locks that we received, we received those. Those are in kind donations from from the VA and from Santa Fe. So because they want us to get those locks out to the community. But do you have any thoughts on whether we should make a budget request, or do we not need what do y'all think?
So I will let you know, historically, they have never asked the committees for budgets before.
Uh okay.
That's something that I never quite understood and kind of started planting seeds. So this is the first time they've ever asked the committees for funding. Typically, the committees just come and ask when they have something big, like in voter services, they're buying those I can't wait to vote books.
Mm-hmm.
So that would normally just be a a request that would come to the board. So I wouldn't worry too much if you don't have something to submit. We would probably get it if it was worthwhile, even if it wasn't in our budget. At least that's how
Okay.
it's worked in the past.
Okay. That's good to know. Yvette, did you?
Yeah, my question was going to be, do you have? I'm new to the committee, so I don't know if you have programming that you are thinking about doing, or because that would drive budget if we had programs that we were expected to do or that we would like to do.
No, we don't, because again, this is our fourth meeting, I think, and we have been spending the time listening and learning, and we haven't actually come up with an action plan yet. That's what we need to do. I think we're probably coming to the close of listening and learning for right now, and then we're gonna start meeting and talking about what our plan should be. So don't have anything, so that would make it more difficult to actually request something. I can't just go in and say, we need some money, because we might be doing something. So I guess taking from what Connie said, if something does come up or that we have, then we can certainly make those requests at that time. But I also think it's good to know what to have a plan, as you're saying, Yvette, because sometimes if we wait until then and not know whether or not we're going to be given the money, then it's good to have that. So I guess that's just, if we don't have anything by the end of the month, then we'll just have to work that out, and then make sure that the board knows ahead of time that these things are coming forth from this committee. That's my
And you
own.
could, if the programming that you envision is something like a speaker or some type of event, it might
Mhm.
be something that could fall under Hot Topics and kind of partner with the Hot Topics team. They also don't
Okay.
have a budget, but they may be asking for one. I don't know. But it could be something like that where Hot Topics gets involved somehow.
Okay. Any other thoughts, Bet? Nothing else? Bet, you look like you got a thought going on.
I feel like I'm too new to this to weigh in on money or anything, but with a little more time,
Yeah,
think of some thoughts.
yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
For me, I would want to know what the league. I know this may be something newer. This initiative may be newer. Um, Something that the league hasn't done in the past. So I just don't know what the will of the body is. You know me, and in my last league committee meeting, or yeah, I think I didn't quite understand how the league works. So now that I'm getting a better understanding, I think I want to hold my comments until I find out what the will of the body is. Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Yeah. And personally, me, I understand what Connie is saying, but I also think that when you have the various committees, that you need to have something in the pot. But again, I can't just go and say I just want some. We just need to have some money over here. But but
Correct.
hopefully, yeah.
I I agree, Gwendolyn, but I guess my concern would be I really like when you said the idea about the meeting and discussion, like almost like a spinoff of what they did of Who's in the Box. Not that we're gonna pay for someone to write a play and put on a play, but if there is a movie, even if there is, I don't know, a documentary, something,
Mhm.
that's interesting that we could buy the rights to, like you all did to the race movie, the so-called What You Got to Say About Race, or whatever that name of that
Mhm. Mhm.
movie was that you guys did. Um, and you had to buy the rights to it, right? So that was a couple $100s, and then the popcorn and stuff is a couple $100. So that's expensive popcorn. Maybe it's not a couple $100s for popcorn. That was me being. I'm
There
doing
were
the
hot
most.
dogs.
Hot dogs. Okay, okay. So now there was meat involved, so that's a couple $100. So I think that's a good idea. It's not flushed out, but when you said it, I was like, yeah, that would be very cool to do. Um, and then I think it would be pretty cool to have Brittany come and speak, not just to the league, but maybe an open forum around what the face of gun violence is. Um, you know me, I'm always with a message, and I don't think the only face of gun violence is young Black boys. So I think that would be cool for us to bring out. But I just don't. I got my hand slapped at the last meeting I was in, so I don't want to get my hand slapped and get excommunicated from the league before I really get into the league. So I would like to wait to see what the will of the body is. And if the will is not that, then there are many other organizations that you and I are in together. We can do it in one of those.
Right. So when you say the will of the body, are you talking about this committee or the will of the
Hell, I mean, heck,
body?
whoever is in charge who tell me I can't ask questions at a meeting.
Okay.
So
What?
I'm sorry, Connie, and tell me your name again.
It's Mickey.
Mickey.
Yeah.
Mickey. I'm sorry, Connie and Mickey. Y'all, this is who I am all the time, so please forgive me.
Okay.
You see, she didn't say I'm sorry, Gwen, did she? No.
I did not.
See, I already know.
You already
But
know, apparently.
But also, I'm a willing worker. I
she's
will
a
be the
very
first
willing
one there and
worker.
the last one to leave.
Right.
So
Not only are
so
you a
you also
willing
get
I,
worker,
that with me.
not only you're a willing worker, but you're a willing worker with great ideas. And and
Well,
and I know
yes.
that. I know that firsthand.
Yeah.
So I like what you said. I like what we're coming. We're starting to come together. So maybe in our next meeting, which is April 16th, we can talk more about where we want to go. And even though the budget request period will have expired, that does not mean a budget is a fluid document. So we can always go, as Connie said, when we want to talk about. So then we can decide what we
mhm,
want to do, and we can certainly make that presentation at that time. So let's give ourselves maybe until then to when we
mhm,
talk at that meeting. That'll be our first meeting without a speaker, and we'll have more time to
Mhm.
really flesh out the things that we
mhm.
want to do. We don't want to take on we don't want to overwhelm ourselves, but we will certainly we do want to make an impact.
Yeah. Or just
Mhm.
say something just so we can get money and then don't have a fleshed out plan or a way to
Yes,
make it happen. Yeah, that
right,
makes sense.
Well,
exactly.
the flip of that also works. You could say we have a rough idea of a plan of what we want to do, but we have not come anywhere. We're not ready yet to like set a budget, know exactly what it's going to look like, but we're just putting it out there so that we may come back to you, 6 months from now with a request that
Okay.
is articulate,
That's very good. That's very good. Connie, you're the
It's a
communications
compromise.
person, right?
I am.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, you know how to talk. That's right. So I need to become friends with you so that you can make sure that what I'm saying is right. That's what needs to happen.
Okay, so that's what we'll do, and that takes us to number 6, which is next steps. So the next steps is that we will start to flesh out a plan, and in the next board meeting, I will say that we will be we have a rough idea. We'll be coming back to make requests once we flesh it out. Um,
Mhm.
if there is, are there any other general comments, suggestions, or questions at this time? Okay, and it's Susie Hutto and Sheila Allison Wells that actually called to say they couldn't be here. So we want to acknowledge them in the minutes that they did actually um contact me to say they couldn't attend tonight. So if there isn't anything else, we are about 10 minutes over. Or well, we're 9 minutes over. I'm not gonna say 10. So thank you all for being here, and I think it was a good meeting. I think it was a good meeting Brittany, and I'm glad Brandy came as well, and we'll
Mhm.
continue to follow that, and I will try to see if I can attend that meeting on the third on Monday. If not attend, maybe watch it on TV. So thank you all,
Mhm.
and hope you have a good evening.
Okay,
You
good
too.
night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good night.